All right. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, May 16th meeting of the TPA Governing Board. If I could say that we have a Zoom recording going. If anyone needs anything, please feel free to access us online. And let's go ahead and get our roll call.
At this time, I am only asking those board members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. As a reminder, you can unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TPA board representative. Steve Wilson. Yvette Drucker. Here. Fran Nacklis. Here. Angela Cruz. Amy Kelly, I'm appearing on her behalf. Thank you. Rob Long.
Here.
Chuck Shaw is excused. Jim Koretsky.
Here.
Ronaldo Diaz.
Here.
Joni Brinkman. Here. DeAndre Poole. Greg Wise.
Here.
Marcy Woodward.
Here.
Sarah Baxter.
Here.
Mac Bernard.
I am here, but please forgive me for not wearing green today.
Glenn Spiritus. Fred Pinto.
Here.
Michael Napoleon.
Here.
Christy Fox.
Here.
Joseph Paduzzi.
I am here. Unfortunately, I don't have any green in my wardrobe.
Maria Marino.
I'm here and I did not get the green memo.
Chelsea Reed.
I'm here. I have a green pocketbook.
Thank you. We have
Here
a
are,
quorum.
thank you. We'll mention that when we get to board or chair and executive director comments, why we're all talking about green today. So with that, we do have a quorum, and I would like to please ask our Vice Mayor Marino to give us an invocation today. And after that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor Reed. Please bow your heads with me. Let us pray silently together, each one of us according to our beliefs. Let us offer thanks for the blessing of fellowship around us. Let us be a source of hope for those in need. Let the feelings of love, kindness, and a well-directed yet gentle spirit always be reflected in our actions. And as my mom always says, let's leave the world in a better place. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes. Do you want to say something about it? All right. Thank you guys so much. Staff, do we have any modifications to our agenda today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. So let's go ahead and we will go ahead and move to have our agenda cleared. So can I get a motion in a second to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Lots of moving. Okay, so we've got Deputy Mayor Yvette Drucker for the first, and I heard a second to my right. All right. Commissioner Weiss is our second. Thank you so much. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you so much. We're going to move right along to general public comments. Instructions on how to provide public comment are included in our agenda. Ruth, do we have any public comments yet this morning?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, super. So we'll move along. We don't have any raised hands for that. At this time, I would like to invite any board member comments on items not on the agenda. For a board member, if you're participating remotely, do we have anyone remotely today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. So if you'd like to, just if you could put up your card, and we would love to see if we have any board member comments not on the agenda. Okay, Deputy Mayor Drucker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. So couple of things just city related. June 17th, we're going to have our circuit ribbon cutting in the downtown. So I'm really excited about that. So if you're in Boca, it's on Monday, June 17th at 9 a.m. We're getting ready to launch the services downtown. If you're in the downtown to and from what we call the red zone, it'll be a free service. But if you're out in the other 10 ancillary zones, there's a small fee associated with the circuit. Also wanted to say we just got back from NACTO last week. It was an amazing conference. I was held in Miami. I know Ms. Nielsen's going to speak more to it, but very excited that we in Boca Raton not only became a NACTO city, but we are also had the honor and privilege to host a regional original tour in our city where it was called A Nod to Todd, from Rails to Trails. And we brought individuals from across the country to see not only our Tri-Rail station and our Brightline station and where our future TODs, or where they talked about enacted TOCs, are going to be potentially placed or built. We also got to have them go on El Rio Trail, and we also got to showcase the areas of improvement for the city, but also the areas that are needed to be improved in terms of mobility and connectivity. And it was great to have all these transit nerds, including myself and fellow peers, just reviewing like our streets and giving us free advice really of what we need to do to make the city of Boca Raton a more walkable, pedestrian, bicycle friendly, and safe place for all. So those two things really excited about, and that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to Mayor Napoleon.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I wanted to announce, the last meeting I announced that Wellington was about to launch the freebie service. We have since launched it on May 1st. This freebie service, we have 2 Teslas servicing our senior population, replaced our prior senior transportation rides program. With the prior program, we were getting about 10 riders per day. We've more than doubled that so far with the new freebie service. And yesterday we had 30 people take advantage of the service. So it's been a great free service for our seniors. It's app-based, and you can also call ahead to dispatch to schedule a ride in advance if you have doctor appointments or places you have to be on time. So it's working out really well, and we look forward to it expanding it beyond our senior community. So
Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you guys so much for the circulator envy. We appreciate that. We'll move on to Fran Naklas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to bring up that on May 30th, because it's National Bike Month, that the city of Boca Raton is going to have an event at Spanish River, the Spanish River Library on the Pond Hawk Trail. Well, we'll be giving out swag and bike lights and bike maps and informational material on a safe and connected bike trail in Boca Raton. And also, we're very happy to announce that we have our first bicycle-friendly business in Boca Raton, Misi Preschool, and Holly Sutton, who's the chair of the pedestrian and bike board, applied for that and was awarded last week. So she shared that at the bike and ped board meeting.
Oh, great. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll move along to Commissioner Diaz. And then after that, we'll have Commissioner Long. And if Ruth, you could please note that DeAndre Poole has arrived, and then we'll move on to Christy Fox.
Thank you. I really love hearing about the transportation alternatives like freebie and circuit and all these things taking off that I feel like years ago, we wouldn't be talking about such a focus on bicycle infrastructure and getting people out in walkable cities. So it's really always great to hear that. And, I just kind of want to mention something because we're always looking to improve those options at Lake Worth Beach. And there's always, in every one of our communities, I'm sure we have one of these, and there's always going to be like one problem area that stands out above the rest. And one of the things that we're trying to address over the summer is I'm actually the liaison now. Our city has something called an education task force, and it's just a group of neighbors that want to get together and advocate for certain things and help our schools. And in Lake Worth Beach, one of the most tremendously challenging transportation problems I recognize is our 10th Avenue overpass, because most of our residents live on the east side of I-95. And then we have Lake Worth Middle School on the west side. And then there's hundreds of kids that have to navigate that overpass. And so this task force, they want to get together and as their summer project, help lobby the agencies at B to encourage more crossing guards and safety for crossing in the meantime, because, we're waiting, of course, for that divergent diamond, which will have significant improvement. But I think that's a really good conversation to have overall, because the feedback I've gotten from PBSO is that these jobs are there for crossing guards and not enough people are applying for them. And it's a great job. You get benefits and it's part-time, and it's for the right person. It's a great job. So I just want to encourage everyone to try and, maybe take a look at that and see if we can all kind of coordinate and share the same message.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Chair. So on April 29th, we had the TPA lead a bike safety audit in Delray Beach. And it was a really great event. And I just wanted to thank Brian Rusher and others who came down to lead that. We had members of our CRA there, members of our DDA, and members of our Palm Trail HOA. Palm Trail is a very vocal community that happens to be in the area. And we walked from along Northeast 4th Street from North Swinton to Northeast 7th Street. And it's an area that has a lot of issues in it. And we were able to walk through and identify a lot of those issues with the curbs and sidewalks, et cetera. And, I'm confident that eventually we'll be able to deal with some of those, but even frankly, more importantly, is just the process of acknowledging some of those issues to the community. It really makes a big difference. And frankly, it makes me look good. I can just show up and you guys really do all the work. So I got to score some points with my constituents. So thank you guys for that. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. We'll move along to Commissioner Fox, and then we will move on to Vice Mayor Marino.
Thank you so much. Earlier this week, West Palm Beach launched and passed a resolution for rail safety. It is called Rail Safety and Functionality for Everyone, which is SAFE, SAFE. This is a first in the country initiative, and we will be establishing goals of 0 fatalities on our railroad right-of-ways. So next steps will be an action plan that the staff will be working on that's similar to the Vision Zero plan that we have, including enforcement, engineering efforts, education, and then community planning. So as we move forward with that, I will continue to keep you posted. Hopefully other municipalities might want to join in, but I'm really excited that we are just continuing to prioritize safety in our city and wanted to let you all know. Thank you.
That is so exciting because we're seeing Vision Zero really working in New Jersey and other areas that we're getting more and more, as it were, proof in the pudding that this works. So that's great. Thank you so much. And Vice Mayor Marino.
Well, my green suit is at the cleaners and I haven't shopped in Ava Parker's closet. So, but we're making light of something that's very serious. And we have actually at the board declared, and that's why we all are wearing green, that this is Mental Health Awareness and Trauma Informed Care Month. So when you see someone wearing green this month, you never know what's going on there. So please be aware because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the TPA staff. I think we have full green on TPA staff today, so I appreciate that. And lastly, we'd like to welcome our new TPA governing board member, Councilmember Glenn Spiritus from Riviera Beach. Good morning, sir. And we also want to welcome our alternate Vice Mayor, Amy Kelly from Boynton. Thank you for coming today. All right, let's dig into the agenda. So we'll start next with the Executive Director's report.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our new members. We're happy to have you here. As mentioned, it is National Bike Month, so thank you to our municipalities, our board members who are celebrating in their local municipalities with rides and helping to raise awareness about bicycle safety and encouraging bicycling as a mode of transportation. Just a reminder, there's a lot of information at bikeleague.org. This is National Bike to Work Week as well, so you can find resources and join. There's also a Love to Ride National Challenge that you can log your rides as well and win prizes. As Deputy Mayor Yvette Drucker mentioned, congratulations to the City of Boca Raton for becoming a National Association of City Transportation Officials city. The only one in this county. There's 8 now in our state. So really exciting. Hope to see more cities get on board. The conference happened last week. It's a national North American conference that this is the first time it had ever happened in the Southeast US. So it was great to be there. Chair Reed actually presented on a panel as well. And Councilmember Naklis also attended, and Commissioner Marcy Woodward also joined us for a TOD tour, transit oriented development tour that Boca Raton led, that both of our board members led from Boca Raton there. And that was really great. So I encourage everyone to learn more about NACTO and check it out. Next year's conference will be in Washington, DC. And as some of you have already participated and had events, Palm Tran continues with their Get on the Bus challenge, and I'm one of the transit champions doing a move and mingle event tomorrow in Wellington at the Wellington Mall at 2. We'll be riding the Palm Tran bus to Okehili Park and learning more about Okehili Park, having an event there, and we'll be back by about 4:20, 4:30 at the Wellington Mall. So encourage anyone to join me and Palm Tran for this event, and also continue to log your rides and get on the bus. Just also a reminder, we are continuing on the Long Range Transportation Plan 2050 Vision effort, which was a plan that looks out over 25 years. We update this every 5 years. We're currently underway with that update. So encouraging our municipalities, continuing encouraging them to get involved, submit their projects if you haven't already. We're actually now getting into a phase of reviewing all the projects, ranking them, and we're doing workshops. We have actually a workshop next week. So if you would like to attend, it'll be in person here from 10 to noon or virtually in the afternoon. And we have more workshops planned. So please get involved. Our Long Range Transportation Plan Coordinator, Nathan George, is here if you have any questions, but just continuing to raise awareness about that. In addition, because we are one urbanized area to the federal government, we do also are also undergoing a regional transportation plan that ties in the 3 long-range transportation plans with Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. So that's underway through the Southeast Florida Transportation Council, which we're a part of. So there's also a survey and ways to get involved through that process. Councilmember Naklis mentioned that the first ever bicycle-friendly business was not nominated. We, the TPA, is a bicycle-friendly business as well. We encourage everyone to promote being not only pursuing a bicycle-friendly community, but also promoting bicycle-friendly businesses. And it'd be great to get universities as well. But those application deadlines are coming up. Businesses is June 5th. Community is June 25th and university is August 8th. So check it out and we encourage you to promote that to see if you can pursue it as well. And then just a reminder, the Grant Navigator, USDOT has a website with resources on defining grants, applying, finding all kinds of resources. So stay tuned to that. And I think everyone, maybe not our new members, but please, if you haven't, sign up for our newsletter to stay informed. It's every 2 weeks and staff does a great job to recap what's happened and what's coming up and lots of great resources and ways to get involved. So thank you.
Okay, excellent. Do any of our board members have any comments, questions, or otherwise regarding our executive director report? Nope. All right, seeing none, let's move along to our motion to adopt our consent agenda. All right, lovely. Do we have anyone who wants to remove anything before we go forward? No. All right, we have a motion from Vice Mayor Marino for approval. May I have a second, please? From Commissioner Baxter. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Let's dig into our action items. So our first action item is a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2025-26 UPWP. And this was presented previously at our May meeting and has been brought to us again for adoption today. So staff has made a few revisions, incorporated comments that were received from FHWA, FTA, and FDOT. Do we need another presentation to this? If so, we can ask Andrew to present again. If not, we will go ahead and move. And I see anything. So you get to skip this one, but don't go too far. I know you're presenting more. Do we have any public comments on this, Ruth?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. And do we have any other comments, questions, anything else before we move to pursue this item? All right, I'm seeking a motion to approve fiscal year 2025-2026 Unified Working Program, or the UPWP. So can I get a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt.
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion from Vice Mayor Marino and a second from Deputy Mayor Drucker. We do not need a roll call on this. All right, great. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have the motion to adopt amendment number 3 to our fiscal year Unified Working Plan. So Andrew is here to present this item. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So this item, the second item here, Unified Planning Work Program, same item as this last first time you just approved. This is our current Unified Planning Work Program, as that previous item was our future one. So this one covers our current planning period of fiscal year 2023 and 2024. This is our last amendment, really, that we do every 2 years for our Unified Planning Work Program. And so our Unified Planning Work Program, it's our 2-year budget. It's our operational plan. So this one's going all the way till June 30th of this year, and then we'll start operating under 25. This program's funding for planning activities. And so in the UPWP, you're seeing the what, so what are the deliverables, the who, staff or consultants who are going to do it, completion dates for each task, and then how much does it cost? And it's based on the funding sources that we have available to us. And so what we're doing in this specific amendment, and this is the one we routinely do every 2 years, is really the rebalancing before we end the fiscal year. And so with this, it rebalances available planning funds into fiscal year 2024. So it takes planning funds or any activities and funds that we still had available to us from prior fiscal years, and then also any ones from fiscal year 2023, and it moves into fiscal year 2024. And this gets a little more specific on the type of funding. So the ones that we are trying to spend and draw down first and get reimbursed for are our federal planning funds, federal highway funds, and our federal transit planning funds. So these are two formula-based programs that are specifically meant for planning activities. We try to draw those funds down first. And so what we're doing is taking prior funds, 219,000, around 600,000, 23, that's all going to 24. Looking to draw that down by the close of the year here. And then our FTA planning funds, around $51,000 we're looking to draw down. As we do that, since we have that planning funds available, additional funding pot that we also take from our design and construction, our surface transportation funds. These are also formula funds that we have to us. They're around 20 million a year. We use those mostly for products. We have some of that money in our EPWP for additional planning activities for projects. Since we have this money available in planning funds, we're going to take $1.2 million out of the Unified Planning Work Program. So we're de-obligating those, and those are going to be utilized on TPA priority products in fiscal year 2024. So our current fiscal year. What we'll do with those funds, we have a lot of products in the pipeline still for 24. You know, when cost estimates come back, they are continuously increasing. So we look to prioritize our products in order that are going to construction in 24 and trying to fund down eligible activities for our partners. And that's the summary. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have, do we have any public comments? Sorry.
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, lovely. So we have one card up from Vice Mayor Marino. Anyone else as we get going? Oh, that was a leftover. Sorry, that was mental health awareness. All right, so do we have any board member comments or questions? All righty then, so I'm seeking a motion to approve amendment number 3, 2023 for the UPWP or Unified Plan Work Program. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Vice Mayor Marino for the motion and second from, thank you. Commissioner, was it Baxter or Naklis? I'm sorry. Okay, so Councilmember Naklis, thank you so much. We do not need a roll call vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And with that, that is the end of our action items for today, but please do stay around. We do have a lot of important presentations. Next up, we have the draft TIP or Transportation Improvement Program, which we will see again next month for adoption. So again, Andrew, thanks for sticking around. If you could present, please.
Thank you. So this is the first review of our upcoming Transportation Improvement Program. So this is one of the other documents that we are required to adopt. This one is done annually as opposed to the one that you just saw, which is every 2 years. So this one covers the next 5 years. It's adopted annually, and this covers fiscal years 25 through 29. Again, this is our first review of it. We'll take any changes. We're still updating some of the information in the document, and you'll see the final review for adoption next month. And so what's in the Transportation Improvement Program? What is it? It's the list of products by phase over the next 5 years for federal and state funds within our county. So our current fiscal year, as I mentioned, is fiscal year 2024. This one's going to cover 25 through 29. And then you'll also see in the document anything beyond 29, which is sort of long range, and that's our outer year. So not yet programmed in the TIP. And the Transportation Improvement Program is a massive document, hundreds of projects, with a lot of different partners and lead agencies on those projects administering them. And every product in there is going to have multiple phases. Some of the more complex projects, such as our major projects that we have for the TPA or the I-95 or other SIS projects, they're going to go through a series of phases that could be over 7-10 years. So it could start from a study that could take a few years, then go to design for another 2 years, right-of-way acquisition and environmental phases, and then head into construction. So you'll see this pipeline of projects throughout the TIP. There's also a few projects that are going to be shorter in their time frame for implementing. Usually these are the ones that are smaller scale, doesn't take as much review, doesn't have right-of-way acquisition. And so it might just go from design to construction. Examples of those are our transportation alternatives program, so local priority list that we have for our locals to submit for ped bike improvements. And this is also true for a lot of the resurfacing jobs that you see coming from FDOT. And so when you're looking at the executive summary, which is just the TPA priorities summary tables, there's plenty of other products in the document, but you'll see this pipeline sort of take place as you go down the list. So our guide here for the summary tables is on the left-hand side, you'll see the year in rank of when we prioritize it as the governing board. And then it goes into the lead agencies, the location description, a product number, and then all those various phases and those costs. And as you make your way down the list, you'll typically see them start going through design, right-of-way construction. In this example, we just have construction here because design's already been accomplished. And so getting to this part of the Transportation Improvement Program is a multi-year effort. So it really starts back in last year of winter, spring of 2023, winter heading into spring of 2023. And with that, we are doing our call for products for our competitive applications that locals submit. We're reviewing all those with FDOT and doing field visits for those and to see if they're feasible. We're also bringing in products from the long-range plan. And with that, after feasibility is addressed and they're ready, we put those into the list of priority projects, which the TPA governing board adopts. And so that's broken down into the priorities that we have based on funding expectations that we have for FDOT to fund. And so that includes our major projects that are mostly on state roadways, our local initiatives, our transportation alternatives, and we also have priorities for Sun Trail to go after that pot of funding. That happens in July every year. We then adopt that list. It's sent to the Department of Transportation. They're looking at the newest revenue estimates, the newest revenue projections over the next 5 years. They're also updating all their cost estimates to make sure that the work program is balanced. And then once they balance all the existing projects, they're bringing in all the other priorities that the state has, as well as the metropolitan planning organizations such as ourselves. That's endorsed by the TPA governing board, usually at the end of the year. And then they build that final work program coming up in around May. And that's what we base our tip off of. So this is based off of the work program. What you'll see in the tip document, that full document, it's broken up into different sections. The main sections for the TPA priority list are our major products, our local initiatives, and our transportation alternatives. I'll discuss how they fared in this document in a second. And then there's a lot of FDOT priorities. So the strategic intermodal system, there's other FDOT and local projects, and then there's our intermodal partners, airports, railroads, and seaports. And then there's operations and maintenance of both the roadways and the transit system. What we're seeing in this upcoming 5 years for TPA priorities. So again, those three main programs, it's $367 million in investment. Some of the major highlights for that, roadway capacity at $210 million. So that includes the full funding of Atlantic Avenue, all those sections, as well as State Road 7. Next is around $90 million for complete streets, pedestrian, and bicycle facilities, both on and off the state system. A lot of local submittals are for these types of projects. And then we have $40 million in transit vehicles and shelters. So that goes towards typical shelters for Palm Tran, enhanced shelters for Palm Tran, tri-rail carts as well. There's $14 million in lighting, and then there's $12 million that goes towards intersection and traffic signals, and that's for both Palm Beach County and Boca Raton. And so our list has a large amount of priorities. I'm just highlighting on the screen for our major projects the ones that have changes. So something that's new for you to see as opposed to our current work tip. The first one is that the other section of State Road 7 is fully funded. It's in construction in fiscal year 29. The southern section of that is in 28. Atlantic Avenue is now fully funded all the way to Jog Road. So the western portions from State Road 7 east are already going to construction this year. This section all the way to the east, Atlantic from Cumberland to Jog, is going to be in 29. There's 2 lane repurposings that came out of our US 1 multimodal corridor study for US 1 in in Boca that's scheduled for construction in fiscal year 26. And then design has been funded for North Lake to Parker Bridge. There's also construction in fiscal year 29, the outer year, for enhanced transit shelters on Okeechobee Boulevard and State Road 7. So these are more premium transit shelters for Palm Transit on their local service. We also have State Road 715 out in the Glades community, sidewalk gap improvements, and that's in 29. And then the PD&E for Indiantown Road at Central Boulevard up in the Jupiter area is in 28 and 29. Then for our local initiatives program, this is the one where we have submittals from our locals to go towards furthering our mission at TPA. Many of these tend to be a lot of complete streets improvements, transit improvements, ped bike facilities. And so projects that are now funded is all the ones from the 2022 round of applications. That includes ones in Palm Beach Gardens, Palm Tran, Delray, another Palm Tran for bus stops, and then ITID. And then projects still waiting for funding, so ones that are not programmed. So you'll see in the outer column that says unfunded needs, and that's our 2023 projects. So we anticipate that some of these, or maybe all of them, will be funded in the next round, which is going to be 26 through 30 TIP. And then on our transportation alternatives program, these are smaller scale non-motorized projects, typically pedestrian bicycle improvements. New projects funded in 27. So there's 6 of those. There's Boca Raton for Southwest 18th Street. Another Boca one on Northwest 6th Street or Way. And then we have one on Community Rail, Spruce Ave in West Palm Beach, and Palm Beach Gardens for Lilac Street, and then ITID for unpaved paths. Just an example of one of the recently completed one is one administered by Palm Beach County, and this is for the Westgate CRA, so sidewalk improvements. And then a new section of our TIP executive summary, we split out some of the products that are active or under construction, meaning they are already programmed, maybe they're out to bid right now, maybe they're in procurement, and they're not yet to construction, or they are in construction, but we wanted to track these for you all as well in a separate table. And so 7 major products under construction are active right now, 12 local initiatives and 9 transportation alternatives. An example of one of these is the Lake Worth Road reconstruction when it comes to providing separated facilities out there for bicyclists and other pedestrian improvements and shared pathways. This is just a quick one for on their website for March 2024, where they have the new curb and gutter. And then the bulk of funding that you'll see in this TIP is really on the strategic intermodal system. There's $2.1 billion in investment over the next 5 years on this. So very similar to prior versions of our TIP, they're really working through the pipeline of a lot of capacity expansion on their main network. So that's Beeline Highway, the Turnpike, and I-95. The first of those I'll talk about is I-95, and just going north from south. What we're showing on the screen here is just what's going on in the next 5 years, or what's currently going on. So if you see a little traffic cone that's going to be going to construction very soon here, it's already under construction. And then if you see the CST, that's construction and what year it's going to take place. If it's crossed through and it's a gray box, that means it's moved from what's in the current TIP. And then you'll see design on any of them if there's PE. So a few shifts, but there's a lot of construction going on in the next 5 years for interchanges along I-95. It's also noted that the ones that are going to be diverging diamond interchanges. So there's 4 of those. And then the same is shown for Turnpike. So this is the largest investment with mostly Turnpike funds, major widening throughout the entirety of the county, going to 8 lanes in the northern sections, and the southern sections have 10 lanes. And you're going to see that pipeline as well of construction starting up on all these segments had the next 5+ years. Again, billions of dollars of investment on these 2 corridors. So that's all I have for you on a summary. We didn't cover all the products. Obviously, there's hundreds of them. We have an online map where you can zoom into your area and click on the products and see more information. We'll be updating this as well. We're still bringing in a lot of local projects, so our staff will be incorporating the 5-year road program for reference in the county. So all those will appear on our map and in our document as with local funds for reference. And so if there's anything else in the document that we can improve clarity on or any corrections, we'd love to get that feedback. We always want to make it a better document into the future. And then so next month, I'll provide any updates about anything that's changed.
Thank you so much. Do we have any public comments on this information item?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. Let's go to the board. We've got Mayor Koretsky and then Commissioner Woodward, please.
I had kind of two sets of comments. First, on the federal performance measures and targets, we talked a lot about that last year. The FDOT truly heard, we thought. They came down, we had that workshop. Whatever the head of the performance group was here, I remember talking to her, claiming they were truly going to listen. These numbers don't seem to have changed. So I continue to have concern about the low level of benchmarked targets on system performance, bridges and pavement. So I'd like, if not today, between now and next meeting, to get an update on whatever happened to the commitment that we got here, that they had listened to us and were going to do something. And I didn't get a chance to check, but some of these numbers seem to me to be even possibly lower than last year. That's area one. And then the second item, I just want to bring up, it's been a continual concern of mine. So, we had FDOT themselves had identified Indiantown Road as being the most congested, corridor. And they had done a study, an incredible study of justifying that improvements were needed. So we have this priority project, 21-6. It took them effectively 7 years to fund the study. And then there's a footnote saying that they recommend that the alternative has to be endorsed by TPA prior to funding additional phases. So that means we're going to wait 8-9 years to do a study to find out what alternatives there are to choose from. And then we'll already be 5 years down the line on funded projects. Which, to me, this is absurd. A study that's going to come up with alternatives that we have to decide from should be always higher up on the list. That means that it's going to take a decade and a half before an improvement can happen on this roadway. Very disappointing. I think FDOT should revisit how they listen to priorities we established. So again, I'm most concerned about that note, saying that they're asking, it's been there for several years now, that they want us to pick the alternative. You can't pick the alternative, no study's done, which is 29, not to 29 or 30 on a priority project. So again, if staff could get back with me, before the next meeting, if we can make some progress with FDOT of taking more seriously priority rankings from the TPA, I'd appreciate it.
If I can respond, yes, for the first portion of that, the performance measures, they haven't updated their statewide targets for those since last time, and that's going on later this year. So we'll still be in a discussion about the TPA's opinions of all that. And we are advocates, and we go through that with our other MPOs in those statewide discussions. So I'll be coming. I haven't totally updated that section either. So you'll see a little bit more details on performance measures in the next round of this tip next month. And then on the Central Ave or the Central Indiantown Road with the PD&E, that note is a TPA note. We can take that off. So that was originally put on a couple of years ago when we heard this need, but I think we didn't understand the scale of what was asked for. And so we're looking to see the study first and then based on alternatives, approve or not. That's definitely a note that we can take off if it's the will of the board to do that for sure.
And while I appreciate that, the other half of the comment still stands because, when they get the study done in 29 or 30, then 5 years is already going to be funded on construction projects. So it still stands that how can a priority project established in 21 see no chance of being funded until decade and a half later. So that's an FDOT issue on, it seems like they should always prioritize studies. So a decision could be made so it can get in a reasonable funding stream. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Koretsky. We'll move along to Commissioner Woodward and then Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Could you go back to the screen where you had all of the DDIs in the project? I should have taken a picture. While he does that, the reason I'm bringing this up, we have the Glades Road DDI, which I think everyone knows I'm not a particular fan of. It's my exit. My first question is, how many of these DDIs will be as an overpass versus at grade? Do we know? Okay.
Call Brian. Yeah. Generally, Brian Risher, Deputy Director of Multimodal. Generally speaking, the grade is going to follow a similar profile to what's existing now. So if it's at grade and you're going through the interchange, it will follow a similar profile to that.
So how many of these are at grade?
That off the top of my head, I do not know the information.
Okay, because I'm not familiar with all of these. I'd just like to encourage the board that we should be aware of any of these that are not at grade. If they're an overpass, it's a significant challenge for cyclists and pedestrians to get through here. I've done it several times. We did it together, a large group of us, which we were all in safety gear and a group of probably 20, 30 people. So it was apparent to drivers to be careful, large mass of people, but I drive this all the time, and the on ramps, off ramps from the interstate where people have to cross, there's a sign that basically just says, prepare to stop. And if you're getting onto an interstate, you're not preparing to stop, you're speeding up to get into traffic. And it's also uphill, or, you're downhill. So the people who are passing through here, I believe we're never going to get to Vision Zero on this area if people are actively using this, unless we, somehow manage to up the crosswalks. However, whatever these are in the future, that has to be taken into consideration in the design. I think we have a lot to learn from the Glades Road one. I forget how many crossings there are, and I walked it myself. It took a long time. If you're biking it, when the light turns, you're having to pedal as fast as you can up the bridge, and you may or may not make it up in time for the next signal. So any of the ones where it's uphill, we have to consider the pedestrians and the cyclists, and not people on electric scooters, the ones actually having to pedal to make it up that bridge. It's concerning to me. I see it every day, and every once in a while I see someone that's just kind of stopped waiting, and cars are not stopping because you're not looking for the pedestrian. You're looking this way because you're merging into traffic. And, not to just put too much of an alarm on it, but whatever these, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 DDI. What is a tight DDI, by the way, or a tight diamond interchange?
It's a smaller version. There's less space in the right of way, so they have to consolidate and constrain the movements a little bit more. It's not as generous as what like Glades Road experiences, where there's a large amount of right of way that was purchased to make that work. A tight DDI at Central Boulevard is going to be much smaller in nature, but operate in a similar way.
How will that work for cyclists or pedestrians?
It's just less ground to cover. But
Okay.
there might be like a difference in the number of conflict points that they would experience. So a DDI,
So that may be better.
it could be better if it's a
Okay.
smaller footprint, but again, it has to deal with the amount of time that you're exposed to traffic. If you're a pedestrian crossing, the number of conflict points, it might be so that instead of bringing it pedestrians and bicyclists who are biking on the sidewalk to the middle, like Glades Road's DDI, they might remain on the outside. So there's a couple of different types of configurations of diverging diamond interchange that are out there and available. TDI might look a little bit more like a simple cloverleaf interchange, but with a little bit of a different look and feel and how it operates. So
Okay, well, that's promising to me, but I would encourage anyone, if you haven't actually walked it or cycled this particular area, you'll get a sense of alarm, shall I say.
we're taking what we learned from that and providing comments well ahead of the construction for these. So we are using the information that we gathered out on Glades Road's walk audit and bike audit to inform the decision, as well as evaluating the level of traffic stress on all of the 95 crossings, not just where there's construction projects, but how we can look at 95 as a barrier to walking and biking for every place that people could walk and bike through. So 17th North in Lake Worth Beach, for example, is probably one of the least stressful conditions. And it's because 95 goes over that road and it's share the road condition, but it's a neighborhood street. So we're evaluating all of the crossings right now, and we should have more information on it in the coming months.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Woodward. We're going to move on to Commissioner Weiss and then to Deputy Mayor Drucker. Oh,
I'm sorry. Commissioner Weiss, would you allow me to speak since it was the DDI in Glaze, which is Boca, before you?
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So to piggyback off of Commissioner Woodward, so the other thing to look at, so I'm already in agreement with the DDI because it's there, so we have to kind of make it work. But as you start adding these DDIs throughout the county, you know, we're at an advantage of the city of Boca Raton because we own our own traffic light signals. So even though we have challenges at peak times, we're able to adjust for those peak times because we have a live operations center that is monitoring the inflow of traffic off the interchange and into the city and off the city. And to Commissioner Whitworth's point, if we're having challenges, and I don't know the traffic signal timing, but for example, the one that we had when we crossed El Rio Trail from the north to the south last week, we were able to time that signal to get all 40 bikes across. That was like 2 thumbs up when I was doing that to Naresh, our traffic engineer, is because we were very concerned that we weren't going to get to move all these people across in that short period of time. So it's something to look at. So again, we haven't had any fatalities, by the way, on DDI. So there is, for right now, there is a vision 0 of 0. So just making sure we put that out there. But also if there's something that we need to look at in terms of people using those signals to cross or bike, we could look at the timing of the signal as long as it impact the traffic movement. But something we can look at for sure.
Commissioner
So-
Woodward. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes.
Thank you. If I could respond to the traffic signal, I wasn't going to bring it up, but we're talking about it. When you get off north or south and you're crossing back over the bridge to go east or west, because it's reversed now. It takes me an average of 7 minutes to get across that because I get stopped at the light. And as soon as that green turns, you can see the next one turns red. So we move from green to red. And then I get stopped again at the bottom where Whole Foods and Airport Road is. So it takes 7 minutes. I time it every time just because I get bored and I don't want to look at my phone. But that is a consideration. I know if you're just traveling Glades Road, that transition works pretty well. But for people exiting the interstate and going opposite directions, if you could have your people look at that, I would appreciate it. I know a lot of people who sit with me would too.
Absolutely.
All right.
I will absolutely look at that and bring it back. I'll get to you before that, but I'll bring it back so we could close the loop with this group. So in any event, we are looking at that. We continue to monitor. We continue to invest in the traffic light system, system. This is the way that it works. We just last night approved another, we're going out for another grant for traffic signaling. And we know that the Glades interchange is going to get busier just because FAU is right down the block from where the DDI is, and that's just off of the interchange of 95. But I will definitely look into it. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Commissioner Weiss, for letting me go first.
All right, Boca, we good? All right, moving on, Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question has to do, when you were showing the funding for the turnpike, and my understanding is that that's funded by the users.
Correct. So you'll see, it's typically in the tip, we're showing it as state funds, but we have it separated too, that it's turnpike funds, most of it. Yep.
So,
Or maybe all of it. Yeah.
so do they bond this and then repay it, or
Yep.
are
Yep. They're doing bonds and then repaying it.
Okay.
And then it goes towards operations of the facility first. Yeah. They sometimes will also pay for other sections if it sort of has a impact to Turnpike, or if Turnpike's impacting another roadways. For example, I believe the Turnpike funds are funding portion of the Beeline Highway improvements.
Okay, but it seems to me, I mean, in full transparency to our residents and taxpayers in it's not taxpayer funded. Maybe there's a way to differentiate how it's getting funded, because it's not it's not typical, it's not truly money coming to, because it's being funded by the people that are on that roadway.
True, and we can actually, that's a good point. And in our tip document and how we showcase those, we can make Turnpike its own section for funding and not lump it too much with the state, and that.
I think that would be a more accurate. Thank you.
Great. Yep, I can do that in the future for all these.
Great call. All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you, sir. Moving along to Commissioner Diaz.
All right, not to belabor the Divergent Diamonds, but I appreciated that discussion because, and I think to Mayor Koretsky's point earlier about how we should be continually studying things, you know, it wouldn't be a great engineering project if we don't continually learn from them. So I definitely appreciate Brian's comment on that. And, you know, my thoughts are, yeah, the DDIs, you know, they're going to be better for moving cars for sure. Anytime you have anywhere, DDI or not, anytime you have pedestrians and cyclists interacting with car traffic is going to be a problem area, right? No matter the configuration. And that's always a difficult challenge to address, especially because you have different modes of transport sharing, you know, one space, and they're all traveling at a very wide range of speeds. The liability is not spread equally, right? Drivers carry a profound amount of liability on what they can do to a pedestrian or a cyclist. And it often makes me think of, there's a really interesting overpass or underpass, I should say, if anybody's ever hiked the Ocean and Lake Trail. I think probably the only people in the room is maybe Mayor Reed and I who are into hiking and climbing, but the Ocean and Lake Trail starts at Lake Okeechobee, it ends in Hope Sound Beach. It's really interesting, purely hiking trail, 70 miles. And one of the unique points of this trail is that you walk directly underneath the Turnpike and I-95. And I don't know what you're envisioning if you've never done it, but you're walking along the Loxahatchee River and it's a unique spot. Like I've seen deer there, otter, and you're literally under two major highways. And it's not a whole lot of conflict, right? It's a green crossing. That's kind of like an ideal situation where you take pedestrians and you separate them completely from traffic, especially interstate traffic. So, you know, something that I hope to bring to our LRTP as the City of Lake Worth, and this has been something that's been brought up by members of our community because of that issue I mentioned earlier with Lake Worth Middle School, is the potential for something that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we used to have this in parts of Palm Beach County. I know Broward and Miami-Dade has it, but it's strictly pedestrian crossing bridge as an alternative, because when that Divergent Diamond does come to 10th Avenue, I do fully anticipate it to be significantly better than what it is now. And that's because right now it's a very low bar to raise. But I'm sure there will be a lot to learn and a lot to improve, especially on that pedestrian side. And so, you know, I would hope that as a TPA, as an organization, we can start looking at those pedestrian crossing bridges where appropriate. Obviously, you're very limited to who owns the land on either side and space and all that, but wherever possible. And I think we do have a narrow opportunity around that 10th Avenue bridge to do that. That's something that we should look into and really prioritize the safety of pedestrians, especially when it involves school-age children. And then the other side to talk about too, which I feel like we often don't mention when we have these discussions, is we're assuming a really significant growth in traffic. And, you know, especially FAU, and I went to FAU as an undergrad, and that was my, you know, my exit back in the day. And FAU at the time, I don't know about now, but, you know, many years ago, a couple decades ago, it was known as the commuter school because everyone commuted to FAU, right? And I think something that we often don't talk about enough is that we assume this growth in car traffic. Well, when we talk about this growth in traffic, we're assuming that it's strictly going to be mostly cars. And that may may be true for now if we continue this conversation, but really what we should be also talking about is how do we get those people out of those cars? Or how do we conglomerate them into buses better? Because that's the other side. And I would argue the lower hanging fruit to address a lot of those traffic conflicts is let's talk about minimizing the amount of cars that are using that divergent diamond, and then you'll see it becoming incredibly safer. Maybe we'll get to the point where the pedestrians and the cyclists are the problem because there's too many of them, and that's making it dangerous. But I don't know if we could ever get to that point, but you know, that's just the other side to look at when we think about growth and how do we minimize that use, and you know, that's really something that we should factor in really to all of our decisions.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Diaz. Vice Mayor Marino. And if you have any other cards, just pop them up and we'll keep going.
Thank you. Maybe it was 2016. I was a newly elected council member here. I'm not sure who was on TPA at that time with me. Greg, were you on TPA? You were on TPA. Okay. So what I want to say is thank you to TPA and to bringing staff together, because what we did in the city of Palm Beach Gardens for the, and it's finally coming to fruition here, for the North Lake Boulevard I-95 exit and on-ramps. What was first given to the city of Palm Beach Gardens was a very drastic, dramatic interchange, exit and off-ramp, and a lot of right-of-way acquisition that, you know, you have this major impact on this interchange. And basically, you would have put a lot of the businesses out of business with the size of this interchange. So Natalie Crawley with the city, myself, TPA staff at the time, and I-95 staff sat down and really worked hard on making it something that was much less impactful. So I applaud TPA for giving us the way ahead of time to give our input, and we as a board need to continue doing that, because if we hadn't as a board and as a city at that time, city representative, we would have had a massive major interchange that would have put a bunch of people out of business. And if you put a bunch of people out of business, then basically you don't have the need for this big interchange. But as it's working out now, it really has a lot less impact, or will have a lot less impact when it finally gets built. And we actually narrowed the lanes on that exit ramp and on ramp. So I look forward to that project being done. And I just want to say thanks staff again for working with the city to get that done. And I was like new on TPA, so that was fun. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, guys. So this again was an information item. It will be on the agenda next month for adoption. So in the meantime, do you want to speak before I close out? You're happy to go ahead. Yeah, please.
I just wanted to thank everyone for your comments and echo Vice Mayor Marino's comments as well. This pipeline of turnpike projects that are coming up, of I-95 projects, obviously these are major roadways that traverse the entire state. They're part of the state intermodal system. So these are things that it's part of a bigger picture pipeline. But the sooner that, and we're happy to schedule one-on-one meetings with you, with your staff, the sooner that we receive feedback, the sooner that we can connect the dots. Obviously, we're trying to promote as much as we can within their plans and their right of way for ped bike and safety improvements. But if they also hear from our local municipalities, from our board members, from if you in your municipality, you have a ped bike plan, if it's part of there's already a proposed connection, or through our LRTP, a desire of someone voicing a desire at a certain location, the more we can influence and help try to work with the Turnpike and FDOT on those designs, and trying to find ways to, within the parameters, but find ways to make those connections wherever possible. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So kind of echoing what our executive director just shared. So between now and the next month, please take the time, if you have any questions, concerns, or otherwise, to reach out to Andrew or TPA staff. This will be coming back next month. If you don't have questions, concerns, or otherwise, do at least make sure you sign up for an agenda review 1 week before the meeting, so that if you have anything has changed or you need any clarification, you have that opportunity to have that connection ahead of time. So that's I'm always a big fan of those agenda reviews, guys. If you ever have a question, it's a great place to get it directly answered as well. So thank you, Andrew. I'm sure you'll hear from all of us. All right, so we're going to move along. We have another information item. which is our Turnpike crossover in Martin County. So if we could invite Jaslyn Haywood and Bill Howell, I believe. Thank you so much. Here from the Turnpike to present the item. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, we appreciate the opportunity to be presenting on this project. As you mentioned, it's a Turnpike and I-95 direct connection interchange. It's a PD&E study, and the project limits are in Martin County. Why are we here presenting to Palm Beach? You'll see soon. It benefits Indiantown Road. I'm going to go over the PD&E process, the purpose and need of the proposed project, the two alternatives that we have developed, and the project schedule, real briefly. So this is the transportation project development process, and we are in the PD&E study phase. And right now, that's the only phase that's funded. But before this study concludes, the design of the project will be funded. Project is in Martin County. And the limits are from just about 2 miles south of Southeast Bridge Road to about a mile north of Southeast Bridge Road. The project needs are why the Turnpike develops, eliminates, and considers project alternatives. And the project needs are to improve system linkage, enhance safety, and enhance emergency response and evacuation. Right now, there are no direct connections between Florida's Turnpike and I-95. The blue are the I-95 interchanges, while the green are the Florida Turnpike interchanges. So we have, 4 in Martin County and 4 I-95 interchanges, 1 Turnpike. So what drivers now do today is they use the local roadway network to make those connections, and that increases congestion on those. Yeah. Okay. All right, so, yes. So a system-to-system connection is needed to improve the linkage. Right now, the Southeast Bridge Road is is midway between where drivers currently make those connections. There are crashes along both I-95 and Turnpike, and because of congestion leads to crashes. So on Turnpike, there were about 1,300 crashes, and on I-95, 2,600 crashes. And this is between West Indiantown Road and South Martin Highway. And without improvements, increased congestion will lead to increasing crashes. So we're looking to address that. And lastly, both facilities are critical in emergency response and evacuation. So based on those needs, the project team, the study team looked at making direct connections, and the movements that we're looking to provide are northbound to northbound in both directions and southbound to southbound in both directions, and also coordinating with the emergency responders in Martin County, providing emergency access only for emergency response responders, and so that would be U-turns between Turnpike and I-95. The study team went through a tiered alternatives development process. So we started with 5, then we added some more, we added some iterations, some refinements, and what resulted ultimately was two project alternatives. And they both really are the same thing, just with the high-speed direct connect ramps in different locations. Alternative 1 provides those connections where shown there, and alternative 2 separates them, one to the north, one to the south, and both provide the same emergency access roads. So what this does, or how does this benefit? And we looked at the benefits immediate and out to 2050. So in the 2050 year, we forecast that 26,400 vehicles would use those direct connect ramps. In Palm Beach County at West Indiantown Road, this would result in a crossover traffic of 15,600 vehicles. So that would be a 37% decrease at the Turnpike interchange and a 16% decrease at the I-95 interchange. And then the benefits at Martin Highway, 3,200 vehicles removed and an 8% decrease at the Turnpike interchange. So these direct connect ramps will benefit both Indiantown and Southwest Martin Highway. So we kept it short. This is my last slide. We're looking to present these two alternatives. We only had one slide, but we're gonna really take the public through how the ramps would work and what's not. So it's gonna be a much longer presentation that we present to the public. But we're proposing to do that in July 17th and 18th. The Turnpike, I think FDOT and generally provides two options for public involvement or public meetings virtually from anywhere in the world. As long as you have internet connection, you can get engaged in the project, provide your feedback, and get to know more information. And also the usual in-person meetings will always are an option as well. So we're providing two options. So that's going to be in July. And that's the information I have. And we appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks, Ms. Haywood. Do we have any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. I don't see any cards. Oh, I do see a card up. Mayor Koretsky. Thank you.
First of all, I appreciate the presentation. You know, this has been an item that's been around for at least a decade, so rumors always circulate around Jupiter. In fact, I heard one about a month ago, and so I appreciate, and they always think it's a much greater impact than, but because they were talking about a new interchange, and I put them on right track, but I didn't realize, so it's certain now this is north, because at one time it was unclear where the crossovers were gonna happen. So it's not, it's gonna happen, as you describe here, north of the park, correct?
North of the park?
Well, Jonathan Dickinson, it's way north, so there's no impact to Palm Beach County,
Yeah, no
only a
impact.
benefit.
But it does benefit Indiantown.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mayor Koretsky. Anyone else? All right, please do let us know ahead about the July meetings so that we can share it with anybody, especially our residents, so that they have the opportunity to speak. That's what we're here to make sure that they do, that they know about these things. And then also for anyone on our board, this was included in our in our agenda packet. So if you need to reference it again, it's easy to access. So thank you for providing that and for being here. We're excited to hear how this goes. Thank you. All right, lovely. All right, board, we're going to move along to the Florida Share the Road Coalition presentation. We have Jeremy Pritchett, Florida Share the Road Coalition. I think, and if anyone else comes up, if you could kindly state your name. Thank you.
I'm going to be the only one speaking, I think. Thank you for having me first off. You said my name, Jeremy Pritchett. My wife and I have owned our business in East Boca Raton for 25 years. That's my day job. I also am an avid cyclist. Last year, I rode my bike strictly on A1A for over 10,000 miles, which may seem like a lot, but anyone that's in the cycling community knows that that's an average. There's many people in our groups that ride over 20,000 miles a year. A lot of them commute on those roads to and from work. They use that road to commute. I also run a couple of cycling clubs called Inner Child and ESM. After a horrific accident that occurred in Gulfstream in January, I started to form a group with other cycling clubs called Share the Road, Florida Share the Road Coalition, with Alpha Cycling, 3R Cycling Experience, and Boca Tri. Between our groups, we represent over 2,000 cyclists just in Palm Beach County. We also have affiliations in Broward and Dade, but our focus is strictly on Palm Beach County. I did have a video I was going to show of the actual accident, but we decided not to show it because it is pretty horrific. So I am going to explain what happened. I think it's impactful that you understand exactly what happened in this accident. There was a group of 8 cyclists riding north through the Gulfstream area. They encountered a car coming the opposite direction, trying to pass, that ran right into them. Luckily, nobody died, but there was 7 of them that were taken to the hospital. We were very fortunate that the Gulfstream Chief of Police was pretty quick to be on the scene, and even more fortunate than one of my friends, who is a lifeguard in Boca, happened to be driving to work, and she was the first one on the scene, and she was able to perform CPR on the gentleman and take care of him before they were able to come and airlift him. His life and several of the other people involved in the accident will never be the same. He's, suffering traumatically. And unfortunately, the woman that hit them at the time claimed that she had a seizure, which we're unsure of, but she did not have a driver's license. She didn't have insurance. She was not drug tested at the scene or at the hospital when they took her to the hospital. And since that time, when she did appear in court, the FHP officer responsible wasn't there. He told us that he wasn't notified of the court date. So the woman, basically, as far as we know now, is back on the streets and driving still. So it's really horrific. But we move forward. So I went through that. So a third of all the fatal crashes in Palm Beach County are cyclists. Pedestrians are included in that. So you can see that it is a major issue. It was interesting to hear you talking about the interchange at Glades. And I will tell you that most people that ride on A1A, they generally drive over, park, and then ride, because the cross going east to west in any of the areas in Florida is very dangerous. And I don't know how you really improve that, to make it safe with the speed at which cars are generally traveling. But there are ways that we can make it safer on A1A. And I just want to talk to you, about what we've been doing to try to improve the safety in these areas. Since the accident, I did meet with Hillsborough Mile, the chief there. I know it's not in Palm Beach County, but it's important to bring it up. He's a personal friend, and they recently put in bike lanes. And we've talked about, has that improved things for you? Has it made things easier for the officers to actually police when the cyclists are in big groups, and the pedestrians and the recreational traffic? And he specifically said, yes, it has. It's made things much easier. It's made things safer. The incidents are down because of it. You do still have problems. There are going to be, drunk drivers are going to happen. Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can really do about that. But he said extending the road, making those specific areas has definitely helped to improve things. And so he kind of was a gauge for me on how to talk to, other groups. And he did ask us, I ride with a group on Saturday mornings. It's about 60 cyclists. It's a big group. Anybody that travels on A1A and Saturday morning has seen our group. We told him specifically, what can we do for you to make it easier for you and to make it safer in your town? He said, just ride single file when you come through. And that's what we do. We honored what he said. We ride single file through that area. He understands that if there's impediments in the road, that we sometimes have to go wide, to go around the impediments. And it's more of a common sense approach to how to do things. I do want to applaud Boca, because Boca did, over the last month, put out these signs from, I don't know who was responsible for it, but thank you, from Camino all the way up, or no, actually it was from Deerfield Beach all the way into Highland Beach. There were signs on the road, the side of the road, that caught your eye. So I did slow down to look at them and see, and they basically had the laws and bike safety on all of the signs, which I thought was a really good first step to get things rolling as far as that goes. I would like to work more with you on how we can add to that, because I thought that that was a very good first step. The other thing is, in Boca, where the Camino Bridge is, there are signs, which even cyclists don't really see them, that say that the cyclists are allowed to take up the full lane going over the bridge. I think that some of the other cities could adopt that approach, because it is very good and makes us feel more safe. And I think it just allows the drivers to know that the cars, have to share the road with us. We did meet last week in Delray with Rob Long, thank you, and the chief of police, Russ Major. And I thought it was a really productive meeting, because it was all about common sense, about working together, about educating, because even the chief there admitted, some of my officers might not know the exact laws of how they're supposed to interact with the bikes. I mean, there are times we're supposed to ride single file in certain areas, but there's situations that we're allowed to ride too wide for safety reasons. One of the things that I think is important to know is that we ride in big groups because it is safer for us. And if you look at the accidents that generally happen, besides the one that I talked about, it generally is a one person and a car. I mean, I know personally many, many people that have been hit by cars, and it's almost always a one person. We ride in packs because we're more visible. People can see us. And the groups that I ride in, we're generally going 20 to 30 miles an hour. We're not slowing down traffic by going too slow. Anybody that rides knows that is actually the case. The other thing is a lot of cyclists have this, which is a radar. So we can see when cars are coming up behind us, it flashes on our computer in the front or it beeps. And it actually puts little dots that shows exactly how many cars are behind us. So we know when to move over, when to get out of the way. I tell everybody who rides, you should have this. This is a lifesaver. So these are things that, like, promoting these things in the cities, I think would help. So what we're basically asking for, and we think would help in the short term, more signage on the roadways, including do not pass signs, bikes may use the full lane, and share the road signs. Also, we'd like time to meet with the individual cities to go over exactly what the laws are, what they would like us to do, what they would like us to promote in their cities with our fellow cyclists to make it safer for them, to make it easier on their police, to be able to enforce the laws as they see them. Because if that's how they see them, that's how we want to understand they see them and follow those laws. Since I've been in the accident, I personally have been pulled over 8 different times in groups by police on A1A. And out of the 8 times, twice there was almost an accident because of the way the police officer pulled around us and stopped twice. And only one time did the officer actually explain the laws to us and what we had done wrong, and they actually were correct. Every other time, it's like a back and forth of, well, this, that, it's not clear and concise. And so that's what we would like to try to get to. I think the biggest part and the way that we'll really, get things accomplished is the proper bike lanes on A1A. I mean, if I showed you the video of the accident, you would see that there's plenty of room on both sides of where the accident took place that could have been bike lanes. I understand Gulfstream's a little difficult. I brought my bodyguard because I was afraid that Gulfstream would be here and go after me. That's a joke. But the Australian pines in that area, I'm still not really sure why they're still there. There's plenty of room if they were removed to really improve that road and make it safer for everybody. I think everybody talked about the amount of traffic that's moved to our area. I mean, our little business, everybody said during COVID, how did you guys survive? We didn't survive, we thrived. I mean, it was amazing. The amount of people that have moved to this area, the growth in Delray from when I lived there 30 years ago to now is unbelievable. And it's not going to go away. There's going to be more and more people coming. So the quicker we can improve the roads and make it safer for everybody, I think is the main goal. Lastly, I would like to invite all of you to come ride with us. I know Rob rides, Fran rides, they understand, we will provide a bike for you. We don't have to go far. We just want you to be able to see what we see and to enjoy what we enjoy. So I encourage all of you to reach out to us and we will make that happen.
Excellent. Stay right there one moment. Do we have any public comments on this informational item?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. We'll go through the cards then. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Thank you very much for what you're doing, and thank you for the enlightening presentation. I ride a bike. I ride here in the city, and so, but I've driven down A1A primarily up here because that's where I am up in this part of the county. And I know, the law may be on your side, but in the same way I have to drive defensively in my car, I have to say to you all, you need to be driving defensively, even if you're given the entire right to use the road. You're not that you're not entitled to it, but I just say a little extra time could keep somebody alive or keep somebody from being injured. And that you all and the folks you ride with, I mean, just be really careful. And that's what you should be focused on, is your own safety as opposed to what the law allows. Because you can be right, you get hit, we can't get you back.
Right.
And that's the most important thing. And this is for recreation. And, look, I know people are not right in the way they drive sometimes, but it's really incumbent because you have nothing around you. They have thousands of pounds of metal around them. And we know who's going to lose in an accident.
We understand that, yeah.
So I just encourage you all to be aware of that. And I know sometimes, I've been on my bike and I'm like, what they did was absolutely wrong, but I let them go through and get out of the way. So, and I know there's not a lot of room on A1A, and it would be great if we could acquire the right of way for bike lanes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I listen, even though we can take up the road in certain locations, do we? No, I ride as far to the right as I possibly can. I understand 100% what you're saying. If we contact a car, they're not getting hurt. So I think most cyclists understand that. Of course, there's always going to be knuckleheads in, any given situation, but I do appreciate that and understand that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Weiss. We have Commissioner Woodward, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this presentation. I do live in Boca. We've discussed, and although I wasn't much of a cyclist, I was a marathon runner for years. So A1A was my preferred route as well. And I know the pelotons of which you're speaking. And we really have two different types of cyclists when we're talking about this. There's recreation exercise cyclists, which tend to go to places like A1A where you have long stretches of straight way to go, versus our previous discussion for people who may be using their bicycles to commute. That's a whole other animal, and honestly a much bigger thing for us to try to tackle. But I like what you've approached us with. I was trying to count up. I represent 13 municipalities. 10 of them are on the coast and have A1A access. So anything I can do to help facilitate those conversations, because I like that you're asking to partner and make sure that you understand. And I ran that area through there where that accident did happen. And even as a runner, there's nowhere to go. And what we can do moving forward with that is kind of, to be seen. But meeting with all of these just so that you can speak with them and to educate your cyclists, because I think that's a big part of it as well. Knowing where some of these areas are, they're not going to be friendly for us moving, not in a car, but to educate your groups. And if you have, ways to reach, any other groups, I know you probably have a large one, but there's a large number of groups that show up, and anything that we can do to get the word to them, to maybe, point out where you can spread out a little bit more and where you need to get tight. And it is dangerous in some of these. I mean, my own husband got hit running with us together. So it happens. And, it is on us really, because as was mentioned, right or wrong, like we're the ones that really get hurt when it happens. But if I can do anything, I'll, give you my card afterwards to help you meet at least with the 10 cities that I have.
That would be great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Commissioner Woodward. We'll move along to Rob Long.
Thank you. And I'm going to attempt to not rant about this issue and be productive, because I am a cyclist. I don't put up nearly the numbers that you put up, Jeremy, so I almost feel embarrassed saying that, but I feel very passionate about this issue. And I think that there is a cultural issue here. Maybe I don't know how far it extends, but certainly here locally, where cyclists are seen as interlopers and the car belongs to just cars. Where the reality is that's not the case. Where cyclists have just as much right to use the road as cars do. And I hear a lot of commentary from everyone in general. I don't mean in here, but that, well, it's on the cyclist, you stand to get hurt much worse than someone in a car. So it's on you to ride safe. And of course it is. But I think most actual cyclists are pretty well aware of that. And there's, of course, it's incumbent on us to be educated on how to ride and so, et cetera, and so forth. But you do see an attitude from drivers that you're in the way. And if you're a cyclist on the road, you see that all the time. You have people run you off the road, you have people flip you off. And you see it from law enforcement in a lot of communities, unfortunately. So it's incumbent on us, I think, to encourage those of us that have relationships with upper command in law enforcement in our cities or whomever to try and help educate them. So what you guys are doing is extremely important because what you're doing is helping to shift that culture. And we were able to have a really productive meeting that frankly came out of an unpleasant interaction that Cameron had with one of our Delray officers. But we have a really great police chief who sat down and was willing to hear you guys out. And because of that is going to be open to providing some education to our officers on what the bike laws are, on what the rights of cyclists are, because frankly, I don't think a lot of officers are really clear on that. But in general, if we're talking about the Gulfstream incident, I haven't gotten on a bike since that happened, if I'm being honest. That's a road that I used to ride on all the time. I'm terrified after seeing that footage. I think a lot of people are. And you see the results of the aversion to prioritizing bike lanes in certain areas, right? We were valuing, frankly, invasive palm or pine trees over having bike lanes on A1A. I mean, think about that for a minute. How do we push back against that mentality? That's where we need to get. So anyway, I'm getting a little ranty, so I'll back off. But I want to encourage all my fellow commissioners here in your cities that that you oversee. You know, try to encourage your law enforcement to meet with these guys. We got a really productive conversation out of it. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, sir. Deputy Mayor Drucker, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Pritchett, for coming today and for all your efforts around bike safety. And I think to Mr. Long's point is that it's education, 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 and there's also policy. So what I can tell you from the city of Boca Raton is the signage was requested, I believe, and Valerie will give a more update to FDOT, and then they put up the signage because we do have a lot of people riding on A1A. I am not the bike enthusiast on this council. I am a really transit champion around policy and really helping effectuate that change. Ms. Knotless is my bike champion on the council because it took a few people on this body to get me on a bike after 27 years, which I have been on the bike and I've been riding more. And maybe, I don't want to commit fully in a live recorded meeting, maybe you'll take me out in the next few months on A1A. But we'll see, because I don't feel as comfortable as some of the bike enthusiasts like Ms. Knotless that rides every week because I am afraid. But listen, there's a goal. Give me 3 months, give me a couple weeks, maybe I'll find my bike groove again. But thank you for continuing to educate us. And what I implore to this group of individuals that are the governing body is we know the bike lane saves lives. We know that protected bike lanes, because I always like to say protected bike lanes, because cars see them, cars are aware of it. You're not going to go into a pole. I mean, you might, but chances are you're not. We know that. We know that reduction in speed limits helps with accidents. So we, as a body of electeds, have to work harder to try to get the policy in place. What I can tell you for Boca Raton is that we're getting ready. We have our Vision Zero grant that we received in 2022, and we're about to move forward on that. So we were going to be putting a Vision Zero action plan. So please be on the lookout for that, because we're going to try to get input and you and I can communicate directly. Also, we are also reimagining Palmetto Park Road. If you haven't seen, there's a mobility study that's currently active. Obviously, we own east of the bridge, west is county, and then A1A is obviously FDOT. But together, all the people in this room can help make a change to save people's lives. I'm a huge advocate. I say that on a day-to-day basis. So if I can be of service to you, please reach out to me directly. But I know that you have myself, Ms. Knotless, Commissioner Woodward, all representing the city of Boca Raton, or unincorporated Boca Raton, and additional 11 cities that are trying to save lives every day. And thank you for all that you have done and will continue to do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you so much. We'll move along to Commissioner Necklace.
Thank you very much. And Jeremy, thank you for coming in. Just a disclosure, Christy Breslaw, who started Boca Raton Triathletes, is one of my very best friends, and I've been a member of Boca Tri since 2010. So while I don't do 10,000 miles a year, I used to, but I do love to ride. And I am comfortable out on the roads, and I have ridden my bike across the DDI. There are nice wide bike lanes, but I wish it was protected more across there. And hopefully in the upcoming DDI plans that can be maybe incorporated. But one of the questions, Jeremy, that you had was, how do we improve east-west connections also? And I think part of that is doing what we're doing right here. It's working with the county, working with the state, and getting the word out there of what we need, because we're more focused than ever, I think, on the bicycle infrastructure. And our past deputy mayor used to always say, build for cars, you get cars. And we have a Race to Zero initiative. We have a lot of trails in Boca Raton. We want to connect those trails, get people out of their cars. That was many of the comments on the NACTO tour last week, where we had nice trails, but they're not connected, and families are disconnected unless they're in cars. So we are working hard. I actually have a meeting later with FDOT today, so I'm going to bring some of what you said to them to advocate for wider protected bike lanes. And it's been said by several people already, but the community outreach and communication regarding the rules and the laws for cyclists, for pedestrians, for all the micromobility options that there are, and for police officers. As you know, I'm a nurse too, and we used to carry around pocket PDRs. Now you get everything online, but just like a pocket PDR for cycling rules that people can refer to quickly. We have on May 30th, we have an event in Boca at the Spanish River Library. We're going to be giving out some information. Would love to have some of you guys by there, and you can
Sure.
talk to some people too. That would be great. Let's see, I'm going to continue Rob's rant on, I do not understand prioritizing invasive species over public safety. So I too, every time I ride that section on both sides, taking my life in my hands, but that's where we're allowed to ride. That's where we're supposed to ride. And I also don't understand the speeding on A1A. You're on A1A in Florida. You should be slowing down and paying attention. We've put a bunch of rapid rectangular flashing beacons going across the road. The cyclists also have to know the rules, and they have to, stop at places they're supposed to stop. I know that there was an incident in Boca a few weeks ago where a pedestrian had the right of way and was crossing the street, and a cyclist flew through the intersection and hit that pedestrian. So there's always going to be people that don't follow the rules, that don't know the rules, but the education, the outreach, now more than ever, and speaking up and letting FDOT and the county and the city and the state know what is needed and have advocates for that. And as Deputy Mayor Drucker said, in Boca Raton, you definitely have advocates for that. So, and on
Appreciate
this
that.
whole TPA board, you definitely have advocates for that. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Nachlas. We really appreciate it. And I know you've got that cyclist eye view as well. Mayor Koretsky, and then we'll go to, actually, do you want to say anything first, Valerie? I'm sorry. Okay, we'll go till the end. Okay, so Mayor Koretsky and then Commissioner Diaz, please.
I appreciate your comment today with the presentation, and I most importantly appreciate the name Florida Share the Road Coalition. I represent the town of Jupiter. Up in Jupiter, we have an incredible recreational corridor that there's not another inch of road to provide to anybody, because years ago it was done as a compromise: sidewalk, car parking along the beach, the road, and a bike lane. And we did extend the bike lane through our inlet village. But what we face with every single year it comes up, and so we're always doing enforcement, quite frankly, is joggers. Where the bikers are demanding that joggers get out of the bike lane, yet they don't have a place to go. So every time that happens, I always hope people can just peacefully coexist and share the road. So I just want to kind of emphasize that. We're also hoping in Jupiter, FDOT is beginning to plan for putting bike lanes, more dedicated bike lanes along US 1 through Jupiter. So we hope that'll pull, some of the real, I'll call it the more speed bicyclists, knowing you just can't, unless you're in the road, you just can't speed in the bike lane. You even run the risk of somebody opening up the car door that's parking.
Same thing happens in Delray Beach, yeah.
Right. But in any event, no, I really appreciate that approach. And I just wanted to speak on behalf of joggers because I never have an answer for that because the laws don't give them any rights. And yet the sidewalk has no room because it's a narrow sidewalk. So I just ask that your group, recognize that and let's just peacefully, kind of get along. But thank you.
We ride in that area too. We go up there and ride in Jupiter, and I have seen that issue as well. So I will address it with our groups.
But the law is we have to enforce that the bicyclist has the right to be in a bike lane. They also have the right to be in the traffic lane. Joggers have nothing.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you. I'll add to the rant that Mr. Long started. I think that there was a lot of good things said. A really important distinction is, that you're like kind of road cyclists and commuters, and both to a large degree just take an incredible amount of hate for some reason for the community. It is, I think, largely a cultural thing that for whatever reason, cyclists are, they're just not very popular with many people in their cars. And I actually have a kind of an interesting story before I ask my question. I'll call out one of TPA staff, Brian. The first time I actually met Brian, I won't pick on this neighborhood, but it was at a neighborhood association meeting, and I was presenting I do environmental work, so I was talking about like water quality things, and they're like, "Oh yeah, awesome! Like, thanks for teaching us about this." And then poor Brian went there, he rode his bike to this meeting, and he went up there and he was talking about a bicycle sharing project. And you could probably unite the country on the hate that people share for cyclists. Like, it was insane. I had never seen anything like it. You would think he was proposing like a Klan parade or something through town, because they were just like, no, screw the bicyclists. They would take up the road, blah, blah. And you see that a lot in like social media and all throughout. And that's, to me, is such a big obstacle. Is you can teach the police the laws, you can help people understand rights, but the bottom line is, I think there's going to be, or there needs to be, this massive cultural shift or an understanding on, and I think part of it is, there were a couple comments saying that the onus is on the cyclist because we can be hurt, and yeah, that's true, but also, as also a driver, I wouldn't want to live the rest of my life knowing that I severely, ruined somebody's life. And other activities, we don't always put the onus on the victim, right? Like, another thing, I like to fish and hunt, and if I would never go to like an Okeechobee Park and start shooting clay because I know that's a shared use area and it's just colossally not safe, like nobody in their right mind would think otherwise. So for whatever reason, on roads with cyclists and drivers sharing, for some reason, that is okay. Like, it's on you. I'm in the car, so you're gonna have all the impact. And I think that conversation really needs to shift, because the driver has an incredible amount of liability and risk living the rest of their lives knowing that they've hurt a significant number of people. And I'm curious, I love the work that you do. If I join you on it's been many years since I've done group riding, so if I join you, I would suggest like 15 to 20 miles an hour. But I'm curious, in your work, like, how much of that vitriol have you encountered from community, and do you have like a good strategy to kind of like counteract that you could share?
So I had a video that we were going to show of a car following us from Woolbright all the way into Gulfstream. Seems to be that issue comes up, that city comes up a lot. And it was somebody in a Tesla riding so close to us, I could have gone like this and touched and videoing us the whole time and yelling at us like we were doing something wrong. And we weren't doing anything wrong. We were riding single file. I didn't want to bore you with the video, but because it happens so many times. And then we also had another issue where an officer pulled over a single rider because he was riding across the bridge. And the officer claimed that the law was that we had to get off our bikes and walk them across. And so my friend, he recorded the whole situation and said, "Sir, I don't want to argue with you, but you're wrong." And the officer, said, "I'm going to arrest you," and blah, blah, blah. And eventually the officer left. In this situation, I applaud the officer because 2 hours later, he called my friend and said, "You know what? You were right. I didn't look at the law right. It was actually for people that are on the sidewalk. They have to actually walk their bikes across the bridges." So we encounter this all the time. After the accident happened and I went to speak at Gulfstream, I spoke at their town meeting. I went and I wouldn't meet with the chief because we'd already had a run-in where he basically tried to arrest somebody in my group. Like he was yelling on the microphone, "I'm going to arrest you, I'm going to arrest you." We hadn't done anything wrong. So I already didn't have a good situation with him. But I did go into the meeting. I said, "I don't want to have it. I want to work with you." But the really discouraging part was at the end of spending an hour after the meeting with the mayor and chief, the mayor was like, "Yeah, the cyclists really need to be educated." The thing is, and I didn't want to push back against the gentleman that said that, but the reality is, as cyclists, we know we can die. Like we already know. So it's more apt that we're going to know the laws, we're going to look at those things, and we're going to be more apt to stay out of the road. I mean, it's just natural. You want to protect yourself. It's innate. So I would agree with you. It's a lot of pushback from the people in the cars that don't seem to understand. And unfortunately, some of the police, we have this situation, but the only way that we can really change that narrative is when we do get into these situations is to be calm, is to not yell, not fight with them, not argue with them, just, tell them the laws of what the laws actually are and be as respectful as we possibly can. Does that happen every time? Definitely not. Have I gotten mad at an officer? 100%. But in general, that's the only way that we're really going to change the narrative. If you continue to let them just yell and scream at you, and then you get into a heated debate, it's not going anywhere. So, and most of the towns that we have met have been really open. I have to say again, I'm not trying to point out Rob and just blow his ego up anymore, but the when we met with the chief there, the chief was so understanding. I mean, he's the first one that we met with that actually admitted that maybe my officers don't know the laws, well enough and should be educated. And that's kind of what we're looking for. It's just common sense. Can we have common sense conversations? Can we sit down together? Can we go through things? Can you tell us what you're looking for so we can start educating our cyclists and, what's the right thing to do in these situations? And I think that's the best answer for all of this.
All right, and we'll have a comment from our executive director, please.
Thank you so much for the presentation, for your efforts. Thank you, Councilmember Naklis, for bringing this to our attention, to Brian as well. I think this is, we have a lot of projects, or FDOT has a lot of resurfacing projects coming up along A1A. And we're just a planning agency, but we try to push for the bicycle safety, for the education, for everything. And it takes all the parties involved. It takes the cyclists, like you said, working with everyone, trying to ride single file when possible. It takes the elected officials standing up to folks that are against the bicyclists. And we've received a lot of the pushback that along the A1A, a lot of the people that live along there don't want, they're not happy with the cyclists. They don't want bike lanes. And what they don't understand, it's an education process. If we're able to provide a dedicated place for the cyclists to ride, then that's good for you, because now you have space, they have space, and it's more, everyone can coexist. So this is really helpful. I think your efforts, I think everyone's efforts to raise awareness. We're going to look into the signs and looking at, we understand not all places the bike lanes fit, but in those places that don't have, trying to push for those low hanging fruits for the marking the shares, educating people at least with signage that they are allowed to share the roads. And potentially, I know that there's high visibility enforcement grants out there for police officers, for example, for bike lights and things like that, that they can give out. But we'll look into also sharing resources for education to law enforcement officers as well. It takes all the folks involved to understand, and even people with the driver's license, when did they take that test? And did these laws even exist then? So it's a lot of education. So we really appreciate your efforts and thank you for coming here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I do believe we have a partner agency update from Palm today. If any other agencies want to update, please just let us know. Hello, come on up.
Good morning. My name is Yash Naval. I'm the Director of Transit Planning for Palm Tran. I want to open with thanking all of the transit champions in the room. Huge round of applause for all the people that rode and continue to ride. It has been a really good program for us, and we're really proud of that, letting people see how transit is, promoting it, and things of that nature. I have so much good news today that I had to write it down, so I'm going to just read off that list. Since January of 2020, which is what we consider pre-COVID, April was the first month that we were able to hit 777,508 passengers. So our ridership is really going up, and we're doing very well on our recovery. We lost a lot of ridership during COVID, but we're right back on there now. So that's great news. Starting Monday, our Route 10 that travels from Gardens Mall to Indiantown, Jupiter, Palm Beach Gardens, that area, will start going into the Alton Town Center. So, which is a great success for us, a really good sign of partnership between cities and transit agencies. And, that Alton Town Center is a place of, there's a lot of recreation there, there's restaurants, there's employment, and those are the areas that transit really works in because you get a lot of passengers that way. So we're very excited to start going in there. Another example, we kind of talked a little bit about the usage of transit, getting people to use transit and shifting those trips from cars into buses. Something that does that really well is frequency. When you have a lot of frequency, when you have a lot of chances to ride the bus, that's when you ride the bus. And starting Monday, another one of our routes, Route 40, that travels from Belgrades all the way to the Intermodal Center downtown here, West Palm Beach. Right now, that's every 60 minutes between Wellington Mall and Belgrades. That's going to be every 30 minutes. So now you have 2 chances every hour to ride that bus. And then we really hope to build up our ridership that way too for that route. Another part of that route would be, right now it goes on Southern Boulevard to get to downtown West Palm Beach. It's going to go on Okeechobee now. And we know that there's a lot of ridership on Okeechobee, and there's a lot of chances to shift those trips from congested corridors into the bus. So this is going to be our attempt to do so. It also sort of takes care of that section on State Road 7 and Okeechobee that is not served right now. So it will be new service for that section. And then lastly, two sort of capital projects that I want to talk about. We talked about how much funding do we have for our bus shelters. Today in the presentations, we did have our final selection committee meeting last week, and we've kind of made our recommendations on who we want to pick as our vendors for bus shelters. So we hope to take that to our board for the final approval soon and kickstart our bus shelter project and the other amenities that are in that project too. So we're very excited about that. And then finally, transit signal priority. We have an active solicitation on the street right now for both transit signal priority and emergency vehicle preemption. So we're working with Palm Beach County Traffic, Fire, and us in a joint solicitation to sort of implement those projects. We're waiting on our proposals. The deadline is the end of this month. So a lot of exciting projects. That's all I have. Thank you.
Those are game changers. Let's take a moment. I know that was a long list, but well done. And thank you guys for making sure you get all of us on the bus. We really appreciate it. And I personally shared that the route for Alton today. I'm just beyond, I'm jumping on that as soon as possible. So thank you guys so much. Those are the connections that we need to do all the things that we're talking about. And we really appreciate your presentation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other partner agencies? All right, so we do have some administrative items on the agenda. They are just here for info. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did we have a comment? Oh, no, go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say to Palm Tran that we had such an amazing experience last week on our challenge. And I think we were with 17 people who had never been on Palm Tran before. And I have gotten so many texts about just how clean it was, how the air condition was amazing, and everything about just that. I think some of the challenge is just getting people to understand how to get on it.
Yeah.
And then once they take it once, it will be easier for the next time. So I thank you so much. We had a great time.
Absolutely. And I just want to point that out too. You made a great point there. Our fleet is basically one of the newest fleets in Florida. So our buses have really state of the art. We have pretty much everything that you can think of, you know, newest fare boxes, TV screens, Wi-Fi, air conditioning, air purification, all of that. So it's a really good experience. And that's why we kind of try to travel train people into it, because once you use it, it's really easy to use again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Yash. We love when you guys come, and especially great news like that. Anyone else? Okay, Fran?
Thank you. I was just gonna have a reminder and thank you that on Monday, on the 20th, Commissioner Woodward and I will be doing our Get on the Bus Challenge. It is Route 92, east and west to Meisner Park, and then there's going to be some light bites at Yard House. Then we'll go back to Town Center. It starts at Town Center Mall, 1:52 p.m. And then we head back. We'll be back around 4. So I just wanted to mention that in case anybody wants to join us.
Who's winning? Mayor Wilson? Oh, you guys, we're all a little competitive here. And I feel, you know, for those of us who went like first, I know Mac and Greg and I were some of the first ones to go. Now we're getting momentum. So we kind of want to do it again, but that's okay. Well, to be discussed nonetheless. Thank you so much. Anyone else before I start to move on to closing the meeting? All right. So we do have administrative items on our agenda. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about those? Our next meeting will be on June 20th. Again, if you need to, please reach out to Andrew. I encourage you to have an agenda review before the next meeting if you could make the time. And anyone else? With that, we are adjourned.